And I was like, Lord, was that you? Are you sure? Like, what? Hey guys! Welcome back to another episode of Hey Weslee. I'm Weslee. I'm your girl counselor, mindset coach. Most importantly to me, woman of God, here to bring you another episode full of encouragement, but also a catch up. So I know it's been a while. I did a big leap of faith and moved from Florida to Indiana in like a month's notice, like not 1 month, like 3 months. Today, in today's episode, not only am I going to catch you guys up, I'm also going to encourage you, anyone out there who is believing by faith on anything, whether it's taking a leap of faith, whether you also have already taken a leap of faith and you're going through the motions. I'm here to bring the reality and some of the feelings that we feel, but also I want to share with you guys the prayer points, because if you don't know by now, your girl be praying, okay? I pray a lot. God hears my prayers and answers them. And he does the same with you, okay? So the first feeling that I want to address when you're having faith on anything, especially when you're taking a big leap, is the feeling of feeling lost. Now, I personally haven't felt lost here in Indiana, but this actually isn't my first leap of faith, and I feel like I need to take it back to this feeling because I think that has helped me in this current season. My first big leap of faith, actually, guys, was in 2015 when I was about to apply to law schools and did my first fast ever. Of all the times that I've gone to church and, learned about praying and fasting, this was the time that I was very much curious and decided to try it. Like, there wasn't anything I was actually praying or fasting for, which is the funniest part. I just was like, ooh, I kind of want to try that, which now I know was God. In that fast, I heard God tell me that I was not to be a lawyer. Like, it wasn't a personal thought like, should I be a lawyer? It was like, you are not to go to law school. And it was while I was fasting and praying. I remember I couldn't shake the feeling. So I definitely felt lost because, come on now, I didn't study for all them months for the LSAT just to turn around and be like, never mind, right? So I seeked God still about it. So the prayer point that I have for you when feeling lost, ask God the authentic question that you really have, but then in the natural, right, seek that answer with God. So what I did was I took a personality assessment that basically told me counseling was my thing. So I walked up to a random school on a random day and asked them to speak with one of their counselors, and I basically interviewed a counselor and asked her every question that I had. I got all my questions answered to know the next step. And so once God was directing me in the lane of counseling, there was favor. So I knew I was on the right page because God helped me to get all my recommendation letters and take the GRE and score good enough to get into the program all within a month and a half. So that kind of addresses how at first I felt lost, but God pointed me in the right direction. But I had to be honest and keep praying through everything with him. So that's the first feeling that you typically can feel when you're faithing for something, is lost. Fortunately, haven't felt that here. I don't think I will, because I'm pretty sure why I'm here. But another feeling that I want to encourage you through that comes with faithing about anything is the feeling of being scared or nervous, right? So the reason why I say faithing something, that means it's something that you don't have yet, and you're believing to have it. So you don't really know what's to come. You don't really know what tomorrow's going to look like. It's not here yet, but you're believing for it with God. So feeling scared or feeling nervous is completely normal. And I felt that extremely in my second big leap of faith. So this move to Indiana is actually my third big leap of faith. I still felt a bit nervous, but I actually want to address my second big leap of faith because that, y'all, was the most scared and nervous I felt in a long time. And that's when I resigned from being a high school counselor. Let me tell you how God set me up. It was December and I loved being a high school counselor. Literally, in my mind, I was going to retire as a high school counselor. I felt like it was a perfect job for me. I loved my students. I loved my staff. And I loved the breaks, spring break, Christmas break, summer break. I really wanted to do retreats and conferences also. So I would host community groups on the side. And I just felt like it was a great profession for me to balance both. So it was December and I felt the need to do a fast. At the end of the year, there was just this strong I don't know, feeling in my heart. I can't really explain it, but you might understand if you've gone through something like that too, where you feel like, I think God's trying to tell me something, so let me fast to give him my full attention. Y'all, when I did this fast, I didn't know that God was going to tell me that my time as a high school counselor was up. I was literally in my prayer closet. I don't even know what I was reading or what I was praying about, because it had nothing to do with high school counseling. But I heard the thought in my mind that your time as a high school counselor is up. And it's the same voice that I heard when I heard years and years prior, you're not to go to law school, right? So I was a little bit more familiar with the voice, but that doesn't mean that I didn't kind of look up at the sky and I was like, Lord, was that you? Are you sure? Like, what? Because I just had told so many people how much I loved being a high school counselor and how comfortable I was in the position, how I got the best office in the hallway. Like, I was just hyping up the position probably 24 hours prior to God telling me this. So I definitely was kind of hesitant, like, did I hear you right, Lord? You mean finish out the school year, right? So I continued the fast and I kept praying through it like, God, I don't know about this. Like, I'm not feeling at peace with this. Can you help me? God led me to Matthew when Jesus was calling the fishermen off the boat. And I remember all of a sudden I had this whole conversation with Holy Spirit like, yo, there was people waiting for them to bring them fish that day or that month. Like, they didn't know that that was their last day fishing when they got dressed that morning. How could they just up and leave? That's when God helped me to realize, like, look, he is in control of everything. He knows individually every single one of my students, every single one of my staff members. He knows their future. He knows their past. Not everything is reliant on me. So if he's calling me out to something, that means not only does he have something greater for me, but he has a plan for everything that I feel like I'm leaving. That gave me peace to make the decision, but still I felt so scared and so nervous, y'all, just thinking about confronting my principal. I used to be a high people pleaser, high people pleaser. Like, I didn't have confrontations if I didn't need to. And I was a very obedient employee. Like, I had no issues. I never had to be in the principal's office. So to have this conversation literally felt like I could explode. I was so scared, so nervous to take this leap, not knowing what it was going to look like. But God is so good, y'all. One thing I will say, and I will encourage you when it comes to taking leaps of faith, is pay attention to God's hand. God literally guides you. Days before I was going to resign, I went to the beach with my friends. It was New Year's Eve. Look at this pattern of New Year's, y'all. It was New Year's Eve and we went to the beach, and one of my friends was also resigning from education. She had got a new job. And so she ended up telling me details on how to write my resignation letter and just certain things that you need to know when leaving the educational field. I was like, yo, what are the odds that days before I'm about to have this meeting with my principal, that God basically sends me how to write the letter? That wasn't a coincidence, y'all. Another thing that God did right before I had the meeting with my principal, I started looking into business stuff. I randomly came across a business coach. I don't even know how we talked. Maybe we chat on the phone for like a few seconds, but either way, she offered to give me a huge discount to have a 3-hour intensive meeting with her and her boss on how to build my business, y'all. Her boss was kind of like, yo, just so you know, we've never done this before, but she really is advocating for you, so we're about to do this intensive with you. And guess what day it was scheduled for? It was scheduled for the same day that I was going to resign from being a high school counselor. It's almost as if God didn't even give me room to freak out. Okay, you're going to resign in the morning and then you're going to have this business meeting in the afternoon and we're going to go. And so I met with my principal, and literally, y'all, I was praying every single second. Even when I was right outside his door, I was like, Lord, help me. Give me your boldness. Give me your courage to be able to have this conversation. And when I asked God, what do I say? I felt like God told me just be honest. So I, tapped on the door and I was like, hey, are you available? And my principal was already like, oh no, because he already can tell the vibe. And so I just was like, hey, I'm a woman of God, and I just want to let you know that this decision that I'm making has nothing to do with with me being upset or unhappy at this position. But as a woman of God, I believe God is telling me that my time here is actually up. Well, I don't know what I said after that, but basically I had to let him know I'm a woman of God. It has nothing to do with him, because I really wanted to make sure I spoke against offense. Like, let me let you know this has nothing to do with you in the school. This has everything to do with God. And then I gave him the resignation letter. God still had so much favor, y'all. He signed a form and approved for me to get a long-term leave, even though he knew I wasn't ever coming back. So I was still able to get paid, y'all, for a certain amount of months after resigning. That right there is favor. So I'm telling you, I'm encouraging you right now. If God is telling you to do something, not only do you follow him and pray through it all, but know that God will open doors and make it happen with you. You're not alone. In my mind, I thought that my business was going to be booming within like 4 months and I was going to be able to pay myself back. But no, I needed those paychecks that God gave. God knew I needed that. After meeting with my business coaches, they basically helped map out that I was going to need to start seeing individual clients. But the thing is, I had told them, like, I never wanted a private practice, so I don't have my license in doing mental health counseling. I would have to do 2,000 hours under somebody to be able to have my license. So then that's when we decided that I needed to become a coach. So even though I have the knowledge of a mental health counselor, I instead just did the coaching route so that I can start seeing one-on-one clients. Before I even announced that I was giving this offering, y'all, tell me how one of my women from my Queen's Chat group ends up reaching out to me the same day, y'all. Mind you, this is the same day I resigned, the same day, asking me if I meet with anyone one-on-one. When I tell you I wanted to throw my phone, I was like, all right, Lord, I get it. I'm on the right path. Thank you. So there was no reason for me to doubt that I was on the right path, because God was literally opening these doors for me, showing me which direction to go. So even though you might be scared, even though you might be nervous, pray and ask God for the courage and boldness and do what it is that he tells you to do, because he is going to blow your mind with how he just opens doors for you. It's going to build a new relationship between you and God, because that's what it did for me. And that's why I was able to do this big move to Indiana, where I don't know nobody over here. Now I know like maybe two, but I still don't have a community yet. I still feel very foreign here. So this big move of faith, like I never had been to Indiana until the interview, like that kind of leap of faith. I was able to do that because of my relationship with God. So now let me tell you about how I got here, the feelings that I've been having, and still encourage you in case you can relate, or in case you're about to do something similar to me, or if you're faithing in general, because it doesn't have to be for a big job. You can be faithing for a spouse, because look, I'm doing that too. You can be faithing for your family, your health. There's just so many things that you can be standing in faith that has these different emotions, right? So for this move, let me tell y'all about your God. You know how when people be like, let me tell you about your dad or your brother, when it's just like, let me tell you about your God, okay? Mind you, I just did a whole year living off of my savings. So I'm praying to God more about my finances, because I was starting to get a little nervous. I was like, all right, Lord, we got about 3 months of rent left up in here. Like, should I get a part-time job? What should I do? So I'm praying to God about that, not thinking at all about a move. So I'm telling God, like, I know you're a provider. I'm not even challenging that. So please let me know, Lord, if I should, take a part-time job. I'm not beneath doing Uber or anything like that. I don't want anything that would distract me from what it is that you're wanting me to do. But this is what I feel. I just need to know like what. And so I go on this little vacation with my friend and her husband. Take my laptop. I don't even remember why I took my laptop with me, but I wake up at like 2, 3, 4, whatever, early time in the morning, y'all. Out of nowhere, I had this desire to apply for jobs. This was not of character for me to even have this urge, but I woke up almost with like an excitement and joy, like, let me apply for a job. And so I go on Indeed, and all I did was type the word retreat. I didn't put a state, I didn't put a city, and I saw a new application had just been posted with this retreat facility job, faith-based center, that wanted someone who was a believer in God, that wanted to be able to help people in their healing and to put on retreats. And I was like, oh my my gosh, this literally looks like the perfect job for me. Like, I remember I was like so encouraged. Wow, this job looks perfect. Who's moving to Indiana though? So I still sent my resume to the job, but I didn't take it seriously. All I did was feel encouraged, like, okay, Lord, maybe you're showing me that the job that I need towards the purpose that I know you told me about years ago does exist. So when I got the call for the interview, I didn't take it serious, but I was like, you know what, I could practice my interviewing skills, and I'm just so curious. I'm excited to speak with another retreat facility that I'm going to ask them a whole bunch of questions. Like, I want to know what it is that they do there, all the things. Also on this day, I had actually a second interview with a local retreat facility center literally later that day. And I was like, boom, 2 interviews in a day, great practice. I do the interview with them. I'm 1,000% my personality, like, hey y'all, like literally the way I'm talking to you guys now is how I was in my interview. And so then I went to the other interview, which was for a part-time position at a faith-based retreat center, and they hired me on the spot. There was a feeling that I couldn't ignore. It was kind of like, whoa, like, let me ask God, like, am I really supposed to have this job? Like, but I think he could tell. And so he was like, you'll start after Thanksgiving holiday so you can like kind of get yourself together. And I was like, cool. Then like a day or two, I got a call from the first retreat center in Indiana. And they were like, yeah, we enjoyed your interview and we would love to fly you out for the second round of interviews. Now remember y'all, I was not taking them serious. But when I heard fly you out and I can go see their retreat facility, I was like, yeah, I want to come. I want to see it. So that interview was going to be December 1st of 2022. Mind you, the day I'm recording this, it is July 2nd of 2023, and I've been here in Indiana for almost 5 months. I moved here in February. So y'all see what I mean? Like, this was not a planned move. Like, December 1st was the interview. I think it was like 3 days before the interview is when I started having conversations with people, and I was telling them like, yeah, I'm flying out to Indiana in a few days for an interview, but I don't know if I'm actually going to take the job. I'm just going to check it out. And some of my sisters who pray, right, biological and sisters in church, started helping me to realize like, yo, what if God's really sending you out there? Maybe you should take it serious. And I was like, oh my gosh, I guess maybe I should. And so given day, I spent the whole day putting together my presentation. I ended up going to Indiana, but one thing that stood out to me was when I got here, everything that I kind of feared about Indiana, I saw was different. I thought there was no sun there. It was a sunny, cold day. I thought that it was just going to be all hills and fields, which it is still a lot of that. But the woman who picked me up for the interview, which is my boss's boss, she ended up giving me like a tour and showing me around and showing me where I could buy houses. And she even brought me to her house to have dinner. Y'all, that was next level to me. So now let's talk about another feeling, all right? When you're faithing and believing for something, let's talk about the warfare where you go back and forth with yourself. I definitely had that. I was not settled. It was not a clear decision for me to move to Indiana. I was kind of freaking out in my mind. Like, am I really about to do this? Am I going to take this serious? Because in my mind, I felt like if God sent me out there, I almost knew they were going to offer me the job. So I didn't really question that part. The question was I going to accept it or not? And that I didn't know, y'all. And so I kept praying about it, fasting, praying, and fasting. I feel like all of December was just a roller coaster of emotions. And so let me tell you how good your God is. In August, mind you, I applied for this position in October, if you're following the story, right? You following me? In August of 2022, there was a day that I woke up and I felt like I was going to Chicago. I can't explain it, y'all. I literally woke up. It's like I was almost half asleep and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm moving to Chicago. It's like I said it out loud. Then I pulled out my phone while still in bed and just started researching Chicago because I've never been to Chicago. I only knew one person who recently had moved there with her fiance, but like I didn't know anything about Chicago. But I woke up just with this thought and this feeling in my mind, so much so that I got a little secret with Twitter, and it's private, so don't be trying to look at it. Sometimes I just tweet stuff to myself. So this feeling I couldn't shake to the point that I tweeted it to myself, like, I think I'm going to be moving to Chicago. Like, And I tweeted it to myself. But then I forgot about it real quick. So I was like, child, the way your money is running out, living on your savings, who moving where, right? While I was fasting and praying, trying to decide if I was going to accept this position in Indiana, why I met so many people from Chicago and Indiana. Literally, it was like laughable. Me and one of my friends went to St. Augustine. The people right next to us at the restaurant started talking to us randomly, and both were from Indiana. And I was like, what? And like, it just kept popping up, Chicago, Indiana, Chicago, Indiana. And I think why Chicago, the city that I live in right now, is on the cusp of Chicago, which I believe I'm probably going to end up doing a lot of work there too. Who knows? But either way, that was one of the signs that helped me to believe that God was trying to send me out there. And if it wasn't for me waking up having that feeling, I don't know if I really truly would be here right now. So finally I got the call where they offered me the position. I, in my mind, said I was only going to accept it if they offered me a certain amount of money. And they didn't. It was much less than I expected, honestly. I don't know what I saw online. I thought it was about to be this beautiful 6-figure position or close to it, and y'all, it wasn't. Even though it wasn't, I prayed and I accepted the position by the grace of God, actually being able to move and start in February. So I had 2 months to really make peace of the decision that I just made, right? Now let's talk about that, because I still felt unsettled, y'all. Even with that dream I had in August, even with running into everybody and anybody from Chicago and Indiana while in Florida, I still felt unsettled. So if you're faithing on something and you still feel unsettled, especially if it's something that you have power to make a decision on, let me share with you this tip that helped me greatly. Y'all know I'm all about the mental health activities, okay? If you don't know that about me yet, then you definitely will find out. So I grabbed a sheet of paper. On the sheet of paper, I had 4 boxes, right? One was if I stay, what I would gain. Another box was if I stayed, what I would lose. Then there was if I leave, what I would gain. And then there was if I left, what I would lose. And so I was very honest, and I wrote honestly in all 4 boxes. Okay, so here's an example of the chart that I drew in my journal. I decided not to take a picture and show you guys because it was all over the place. So this is actually easier to read. When I did this chart, what I realized was the known gains that I had if I left and went to Indiana outweighed the gains I would have with staying. A lot of my gains for staying were more so for comfortability, like my community, my church, my living arrangements, the expense of it. But the gains for leaving was more so being able to live alone for the first time before getting married, having to finally be a part of the ministry God put in my heart for so long, being able to depend on God in a new way, so my faith walk, experiencing 4 seasons again, and just so much more. So I realized that one of my losses, if I stayed, was going to be the regret of not taking this opportunity. But let me tell you and encourage you to do this. If you're like me and sometimes in addition to your faith, you have to see things practically, definitely do this chart, because what I then did with God, this is the part to listen to. What I did with God was the box of everything that I was going to lose from leaving to Indiana. I wrote what I needed God to do for me to be comfortable. Y'all heard that? So for me to lose seeing my godson grow up as closely, then I needed God to allow me to fly back home a certain amount of times. Or losing the community, then I needed God to go before me. Y'all, I pray this prayer a lot because I visualize things. I can pray for another state while I'm not in it. I can pray for a whole nother day that hasn't arrived yet, because I know that God is omnipresent and He's already there. Whew, y'all, I'm about to preach. I know that. I know that I'm here today in Indiana, but I know that God is also in Florida. I know that God is also in next year. So I pray things where I ask God to do stuff for me in the future. So for everything that I felt that I was going to lose from leaving Orlando, I told God what I was going to need in Indiana, and I started praying for the apartment. Okay, Lord, if I'm going to leave this townhouse with my sister in it, then I need for my apartment to feel like a home. I need for my apartment to look like this, look like that. I literally mapped out everything that I was going to need, right? And so finally, I understood why I was going to say yes to this move. I realized it was an experience that I couldn't get if I stayed. And I felt like it was going to be the hands-on experience that I've always wanted, because that's the type of learner that I am. Like, I can figure things out by watching tutorials and reading books, but to be able to serve and do stuff for another ministry to the best of my ability and bless them, I believe that I was going to be blessed back in the long run. So I had my yes, I gave my yes, and within like weeks I had to like pack up my whole room, ship out my car, and move to Indiana. So now let me tell y'all about the move. Should I do a part 2? I think I am going to break this up into 2 videos. So yeah, let me do my part 2. But I hope you guys have been encouraged so far, because we've gone through a few emotions, right? So feeling lost is normal when you're faithing through something. Make sure that you're being honest and you pray through it with God. But most importantly, you figure out those how-to questions. So if you need to learn how to budget, if you need to learn how to be a healthy wife, if you need to learn how to become a counselor, like, find out those how-to questions so that it's not that you're just lost, that God can meet you in your pursuit and help guide you to what it is that he's trying to show you. Because you're not really lost, you're not really alone. God is leading you. If you're feeling nervous, if you're feeling scared, another prayer point is to ask God for your boldness, ask God for courage, because fear is not of God. His perfect love draws out fear. So tell God what it is that you need. Pray and fast. I'm a strong believer in silence, the outside noise, taking a fast and praying through things with God. Pray and ask God for the things that you need to be at peace with your decision. So with that, guys, I hope you have a great day. As I always say, keep loving on you. I'll keep loving on me. I'll see you in part 2, and let's all be free. Bye, guys.